Good evening and happy Monday, everyone, for my first ECA Live for the month of May. May is a very special month. We will be bringing you 2 live events with 2 very special guests this month. So I'm very excited. As always, I am Randi Heathman, the Equestrian College Advisor, and I suspect we're going to have lots and lots of viewers and questions tonight. So there is no preamble other than to say I have dressed appropriately for this event so that I can bring in Lindsay Martin of the CPI, the College Prep Invitational Horse Show, and we're going to talk all things CPI and recruiting and college-bound equestrians, and here we go.
Hi. Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, well, thank you for coming on. It is always fun when we talk, and we talk often, and then I come to CPI events and I don't see you all weekend because you're running around running the events.
Yes.
So we have to do all of our talking in between, but this is a topic. I have families every year who I will have worked with periodically. You know, I started with the kids as sophomores, or we started junior year or whatever, and CPI will come around and they'll say to me either should I go or what is this event? And it's an event that's been around. Is this the 11th year? It's not your 11th year, but is this the 11th year or the 10th year of CPI?
It's actually going to be the 12th year.
The 12th year. So it's been around for 12 years.
12 years.
And you took over in 2013 or 14?
2015, January 2015 was my first CPI horse show that I ran. I had been involved with the organization before that.
That's right. And it is kind of, I mean, you've built it, you've grown it to multiple locations and things, but I always have families that don't know what it is. So I said, tonight, that's what we're talking about. What is this event and who should be involved and all of those things. So can you give, I know we also have some viewers tonight who are not horse people, they're educational consultants or counselors who work with students who may ride. So what is the College Prep Invitational Horse Show? Let's start there.
So CPI Horse Show is basically that. It's a horse show, but what we've done is we invite all of the colleges, and it's mainly IHSA colleges, to attend, and they all set up tables throughout the weekend, and they are able to meet with all of our student riders, and they are able, so the riders are able to get information about the schools and the types of programs they have and what, you know, they offer, whether it be just academic scholarships, athletic scholarships, all kinds of stuff. And then we horse show throughout the weekend. So then the coaches and admission staff, whoever the colleges send, are able to watch the kids horse show. And it's just a great weekend for everybody involved. They learn a lot. There's kids that come in and they're set on certain schools and they leave having a whole new list of schools. So it's basically like a college recruiting weekend with a horse show included.
Yeah. And I have to say, as someone who gets to attend the college fair every year, and I was an admission counselor, I never in my admission counselor life got to stand and watch a horse show at my table. So it is my favorite college fair of the year because there's a horse show right in front of me. Because I think families should know that the college fair, right, it's ringside.
It's ringside. You guys have the best, basically best seats in the entire place. Every single college can see the ring and what's going on. And it's just great. And as that's going on, they're interacting. So a lot of schools, you know, in the beginning, they would just send either an admissions person or maybe even the coach, but now it's grown. They send multiple people. They'll send an admissions person. They'll send the coach. They'll have either current or past riders that will come also, so that people can be watching and talking and all at the same time.
And I love the fact that it's a full weekend. So, you know, like a horse show, families are there the whole weekend and they can go back and have these ongoing conversations. So it's a little bit better than a traditional college fair, which is usually 2 to 4 hours, but you could talk to the same coach on Friday and go back on Sunday and say, oh, I got that one more question that came to me, or they can give you feedback on a ride. So there's that relationship building.
So there's that. One of the recommendations that I make, because people are like, with Florida, it's 3 days. They're like, so we only horse show, on one day. What do we do the rest of the time? And I always make the recommendation and say on Fridays, that is your time to go meet with every single school that's there. Normally in Florida, we have between 40 to 50 colleges that attend. In New Jersey, I think we're up to like 25 to 30, which is great. And I meet with all the colleges, take all the information back, go back to the hotel, look at the information, narrow down your colleges, then spend the next day going back to the ones you've kind of narrowed it down. And again, reintroduce yourself, talk to the colleges, ask any questions you may have, let them know that you're in and, what you're showing in, and then again, follow up. And I really stress that the colleges want to hear from the riders themselves. It's great that mom and dad are there and everything else, but they really want to talk to the riders and, and get a sense for why they want, to go to school and you have to take the initiation. So I always, I recommend to people use every ounce of time possible, to gather information about these schools.
Yeah. Well, and you opened it up a couple years ago. So the grades now, they can come as 8th graders all the way through
Absolutely.
senior year.
Yes.
And so I know there are families that I talk to multiple years because they come back to these events and they continue. So the same questions you had for a coach in the 8th grade are not the questions you have when you get to 10th or 11th grade. And so that's relationship development as well.
Absolutely. I have a ton of kids that started doing CPI in 8th grade, and they do it all the way up to 12th grade, and they'll do both. They'll do CPI Florida, CPI New Jersey, and the schools really, they build a list and they're following you. They're following you also in your regular riding career too, whatever that may be, whether if you just do interscholastic riding or if you're showing at the rated shows, that type of stuff, but they will follow you, and they do make a list of the riders that attend CPI on a regular basis and that they're meeting with, and they become very familiar with each other, and it's pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, and I think that gets to, I'm the first person to tell any family who asks about college riding and the college search, I will never tell them how to spend their time, and I will never tell them how to spend their money, because that ultimately is going to be a family decision. But
absolutely,
when we get into the purpose of CPI, if they ask me, why should I go? I say 2 things. Number 1, you will never see all of these colleges in the same place except at like IHSA nationals. And when you come here, they have time to talk to you because at IHSA nationals.
Yeah, there's not the time. That's, they're focused on their kids and, their job.
There's none of that. Yeah, they're trying to win. But the relationship building, I think, is the purpose, because I know how nervous kids are to take that next step with their college riding. And I'm like, if you can go and talk to Sweetbriar, usually comes every single year, and you can talk to Sweetbriar and develop that relationship over time, by the time it comes to send your applications, you're applying to a school where you literally know people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I always tell people. I say, where else can you go and horse show in a weekend and meet with 50 colleges at the same time? It's a really great experience. And for some kids also, it's also the first time that they're doing the whole catch riding or draw, where you're drawing a horse and riding a horse that you've never ridden before. For some riders, it is something that's all they do. And for others, it's a whole new world. So it's great to kind of see the learning experience.
Yeah. Well, and let's get into the nuts and bolts of that. So if someone is brand new to CPI, and so we're saying, okay, so there's a college fair and there's a horse show. Let's kind of walk through this schedule. So there's a New Jersey event and there's a Florida event, and New Jersey being smaller is only 2 days.
Yes.
3. Yes. And I put the dates up on the screen when we get kind of closer to the end, because I know people are going to want to take notes, but real quick, let's kind of run through the schedule. So if I sign up for the CPI, and let's use Florida because it is a longer show. The first day is not the horse show. You've added a clinic component. So let's talk about that.
So we've added a clinic component, and it has been an extreme success. The clinic is extremely limited, but it gives the riders the opportunity to possibly ride a horse that they're going to draw in the horse show. It also, we try to incorporate IHSA coaches as our clinicians, or, you know, some of the top professionals. This last year in Florida, we were so lucky. We had Cindy Cruciati from Serenity Farms, and her daughter, Kelly Cruciati Vanderdeen, was there also a little bit. She is a Grand Prix rider, and she used to be one of the top eq riders. She was one of the top junior eq riders in the country. And they get to work with these trainers and coaches, and kind of really learn also a little bit about the IHSA program, or the college riding experience. And again, it's extremely limited. In Florida and New Jersey this year, we only have 3 sections: an open, an intermediate, and novice, and there's only 8 spots in each section. So again, it's first come, first serve. We fill it up, and normally we have a waiting list that has probably about 100 people on it by the time we get to it. And we do move through the wait list too. And at times we've added additional clinics if we're able to, given, you know, what we have regarding horses. I try not to load them up completely because they have a huge weekend, you know, ahead of them. That's also one of the benefits of CPI, is that you don't have to bring, you don't bring your own horse. We supply all of the horses. So everything's there. The only thing you're responsible to bring for the weekend is yourself. So we do that on Friday. So we have the clinic, and that's normally going as the college fair is going on. You're more than welcome to sit, watch. You know, I personally have picked up a lot of what I know from listening to lessons and clinics and clinicians and all of that. I've been very lucky that I've gotten to, you know, sit in on lessons with some of the, you know, top professionals in the sport, and, you know, you just kind of take it all in. So even if you don't get to participate and ride in the clinic, I always recommend that you sit and you listen and you audit, and it's, you know, it's open to all. And like I said, the college fair is going on at the same time, so you get to meet with all the colleges, which we recommend. Then Friday evening, we roll into, at Florida, we've been doing a welcome reception back at the Marriott Hotel, and that's kind of like a nice little meet and greet for everybody. You kind of get to intermingle with each other and all of that. And then we also do educational presentations too, as you know. One of our favorite speakers is Randi. She comes in, you know, because there are other parts to college besides just the riding aspect and the horse aspect and all of that. There's the admissions process and everything else that goes into it. So we try to have speakers there to discuss all avenues of it, not just the equestrian part of the college search.
Yep. And you've had people talk about their careers and their paths to their careers and all that, because a lot of times too, kids may be thinking, oh, I want to do an equine major and go into my career, or I want to do business or things. And so you've had people from all sides of the equine industry, and they've been some great speakers.
Absolutely. We've had PR and marketing people there, because that's a huge aspect in the sport. You know, a lot of people think it's either owning a barn or becoming a professional rider. You know, and that's not it. You have PR marketing. We've had Andrew Ryback, who is one of the top equine, you know, photographers. We're very lucky that he shoots CPI Florida. And so we've had him as well, you know, speak to kids. Dr. Piper Clem, who publishes The Plaid Horse, she speaks all the time about her experience and opportunities and, you know, and all of that as well. So yeah, we try to, you know, change it up and incorporate a little bit of everything.
Yep. And there's food. There's always great food, so it's worth going just for the interaction.
Absolutely.
Yep. And so that's kind of like, I like that the educational part of it. So the education of the clinic and then the education of the speakers kind of touching on all sides of it roll into the competitive part. So we don't just dive in with, hey, we're here to horse show, but we get into that. We've got to go to college too. It's the College Prep Invitational.
Yes.
And then you get them there at what hour Saturday morning to start the show?
I think schooling starts at 6:30 in the morning. We don't mandate that you're there for schooling. That's another good reason to watch the clinic on Friday, because then you may not have to come and watch schooling on Saturday or Sunday morning super, super early. So, we do start early. We school the horses all get schooled. No rider who is competing that day is allowed to school horses. So it's a level, it's a level playing field. And we kind of roll into a whole day of horse showing. And every rider has, this is also a big question I get, every rider has an over fences class and a flat class in their division that they select, except for, obviously, we also have a walk trot canter division. So they obviously don't have the over fences portion, but they do a walk trot. We do a walk trot and then a walk trot canter class. So everybody gets two classes, and you draw your horse for each class. So there's a chance you may be doing the over fences on one horse and you're flat on the other, or you could get extremely lucky and be doing it on the same horse. I mean, that's happened, sometimes as well too. It's all about, it's the luck of the draw, as we say.
It's that introduction to college. This is how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is based on, so for students who are showing in the Interscholastic Equestrian Association, they're already familiar with that format. But for anyone coming over from the quote unquote traditional horse show world, this is the introduction to college, because it is that draw, and there's a limited warm up on the horse for the over fences. They get 2 fences, I think, in the warm up.
They get 2 fences in the warm up, which is more than you get in the college world, because in the college world, you get no warm up. You literally get on your horse and you go in the ring and you horse show. But we do give you 2 warm up fences. And then you go and you do your thing. And like you said, it is for some kids who are involved in interscholastic programs at the high school or middle school level, because we are open to 8th graders. It's not a foreign concept to them, but especially with CPI Florida, there's a different pool of riders. We have kids who are coming over that are there to show the winter at the Winter Equestrian Festival. And so they're popping on over to do this. And for a lot of them, they've never done this before.
Yeah. And it's a completely different skill set. And so for students who have not had that experience but might want to participate in CPI, I would say doing some catch riding and getting basically comfortable being uncomfortable on a horse that you just met is part of the skill set.
Absolutely. It's something that we kind of all take for granted a little bit too, that you're going to have the dream ride and the dream round. And that's, not always the case.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of, one of the things that I like too is one of your speakers on Friday night is always either you hire a coach or just one of the coaches from the college side. And normally Bob Cascione attends and kind of does the introduction to the IHSA, and we love Bob. But normally you also have a college coach come in and say, hey, everybody, I know you're nervous to horse show tomorrow. We can't guarantee you're going to get the best draw. We can't guarantee that you may fall off. People have fallen off before. What we can tell you is that the coaches are looking at the whole picture. They're not looking for the quote unquote best rider. So you don't have to win your class to get recruited by these coaches. And I love that that the students kind of can go in knowing that. Absolutely. Again, that's the beauty thing of it, is everybody's on a level playing field. Chances are you've never ever, unless you've attended CPI horse shows in the past, because we do have a lot of the same. We're very lucky. We have phenomenal horse providers.
And so there is a chance. I've had kids draw one year, they, it didn't go their way and it wasn't, all that great. And then next year they've come back and they've been the high point rider for the division. And they may have ridden the same horse, drawn the same horse, type of thing. So it does happen. And again, that's one of the great things about CPI is that, they look past that. And yes, we generally do have an IHSA coach speak. We also have a program called the Hire a Coach program, because we recognize that not everybody can have their coach or their trainer attend with them. If they're the only one coming from their area or what have you, sometimes it's, costly to fly in your trainer and stuff. So we do have the Hire a Coach, and it normally is an IHSA coach. And they work with you through the weekend. They coach you basically on your 2 rounds. In the past, we've been very lucky. We've had Chris Mitchell, who was with Randolph at the time. He's phenomenal. We've had Michael Dowling from Centenary, Heather Clark from Centenary, Eddie Fedowich from SCAD, all types of things. So you're actually getting to work with a college coach too, which is a little bit of a benefit as well.
Yes, definitely. And getting that exposure and again, starting to build that relationship. And I want to be clear, because we've talked a lot about the IHSA's involvement with CPI. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they don't have the same stringent regulations placed on them by the NCAA as some of the NCEA schools. So very commonly, and I'm sure you're asked this a lot, do the NCEA coaches participate in CPI? Why or why not?
They do not actively participate, and the simple reason is because they fall under certain guidelines for recruiting and eligibility. So if they actually talk to a rider who's hasn't entered the clearinghouse or isn't eligible or is younger or what have you, it could potentially damage your eligibility as an athlete, in the NCEA world type of thing. So that's why they generally try to, they're not there because they can't actively recruit. They can only talk to a certain group of people, and it becomes, like they kind of have to weed it out, and it's a stringent thing, but they have to follow those rules. So.
Yeah. Which is not to say that, because a lot of students that I'll talk to and work with may have some NCEA programs that they're looking at, but they may also have some IHSA programs. And I always say, some of those students don't have great opportunities to catch ride. Well, CPI is a great time to video yourself catch riding, and then you can follow up with any NCAA coaches that you're speaking to.
No, absolutely. And there are some NCAA schools that do attend.
That is true also, yeah.
That do attend as well. Sweetbriar has attended CPI for as long as I can remember, Long Island University, because it's whatever their rating is, that they're a little bit stringent. However, the bigger schools like Auburn, Georgia, Oklahoma, all of them, it's extreme, so it's just,
Yeah, the D3 schools can come because they have more open regulations. The D1 and the D2 programs are the ones that are really cracked down on. So
absolutely.
Yep. So just always want to get that clarification out there, because I know that families will ask. And so I do want to get in a little bit, because obviously it's a horse show. There's a clinic. It's traveling involved if you don't live right in the neighborhoods where these shows are hosted. And I'm going to ask you this question, then I will pop up the dates and the locations for the New Jersey and the Florida events. But I know you're consistently asked as well. Let's talk about the cost of CPI, and let's talk about what happens if a family can't afford it, because you've also built those mechanisms in.
Absolutely. So the cost of CPI is for both CPI Florida and CPI New Jersey. There is a $50 application fee, and then there is the entry fee is $550. So it's a total of $600 for the weekend, and that includes everything. That's your classes. That's the horse. Again, we provide the horse and everything else. So there's that. And then the clinic, which happens either on Friday or Saturday, depending if you're at Florida or New Jersey, is an additional $400. And again, that's something that's extremely limited, first come, first serve. Again, actually for both CPI New Jersey and CPI Florida, are ready for 2022. Spots are for filling up quickly. So, you want to get your applications in, sooner rather than later. So there's that. And you're right, it is kind of costly once, for a family, because there is travel for most. There's hotels, you're at the height of season, especially for CPI Florida. So through our nonprofit organization, which is the CPI Scholarship and Educational Fund, we've established the Junior Ambassador Program, and we have what's called Fund My Ride, where you can sign up, become a Junior Ambassador, select Fund My Ride, and you can basically fundraise your entry to CPI Florida or CPI New Jersey. And all the guidelines, all of that's on our website as well. You can reach out to us and we can kind of guide you in the right direction. All the instructions are there as to how to go about it, to enroll in the program, and then make sure you submit your application so that we hold your spot. The only thing you cannot fund your ride for or fundraise for is the clinic. And again, that's just because of the nature of it and the fact that it is an extremely limited thing.
Yep. But like we said, for free, you can audit the clinic while attending the college fair and still get information. So
absolutely. So you can audit the clinic, at any time throughout the day and all of that kind of stuff. And then again, so we do have, there are options for our, riders who are looking to attend, but it may be a little bit out of the price range.
Yeah. And, I kind of look at it as in terms of depending on what level of horse showing families are doing, this can cost the same as maybe one of the horse shows that they would attend, but it also could be less than one of the horse shows that they attend. I also know you've had students that this is the one horse show that they do every year. They save up and they say, we're just doing CPI Florida. This is my one horse show, because it puts them in front of the college coaches. It gives them the opportunity to be in Wellington and do all of the fun kind of Wellington touristy things during the season as well.
No, absolutely. And that's what some of them do. And again, like I said, we recognize the cost is, but where else are you going to go and horse show, especially if you're traveling to Florida? You don't have to bring a horse. All the horses are supplied. You just have to bring yourself. You're able to come participate for the weekend. And then, like you said, there's all the great things once we return to normal over at, happening at the Winter Equestrian Festival, or some kids tie it into their weekends that they are going to come show down at WEF. So that will be one of their weekends that will either normally kicks off their time showing it at, in Wellington or what have you, but they're able to do both because we're not on the same showgrounds as WEF, but we're about 7 miles from each other. So it's about a 20-minute drive, give or take during season with traffic. So that is one of the benefits of, of all of that. So you can get a lot accomplished in a weekend. And where else are you going to be able to go and meet with that many colleges in one place?
Yeah. And, my brain just split in my head. If I look confused, viewers, it's because I just had two simultaneous thoughts. Because we go back to this idea of the colleges being in one place. But I want to emphasize one other important thing, that this is one place where all these colleges are together and they're working together, because I love these coaches know each other and they see each other at various meets and they see each other at nationals and they sit on the board together. And I love hearing them talk about, oh, you're really interested in this program, like you want XYZ. My school does that, but you know who does it really well is my neighbor right here. And that exchange of ideas, or a coach sometimes will just talk to a student and say, I don't know if, we're the best fit for you, but go talk to my friend down there. And they really help the kids get educated about what particular schools offer and what particular riding opportunities there are, and the networking among them. You would think that they'd be cutthroat, like, oh, I want this student.
Oh, no.
That's not how this is at all.
I actually have schools that request to be put near each other. It becomes musical chairs on Thursday. Some of them I've caught on. They start arriving early on Thursday once we set up. And even though we have table cards already out, they mysteriously rearrange themselves. And they're together because they all do work together. And like I said, it's not just even the coach. Also, we have tons of admissions people and staff that attend the CPI horse shows.
Yeah.
So they all kind of, again, feed off each other and can recommend a program. If you're standing, like Randi said, if you're standing there and speaking to them and, it's really not going to be the right fit, they will, make a recommendation.
And on the extreme side of it, I have seen a coach from school A take a kid almost by the hand, this is pre-COVID, almost by the hand, and take them down to introduce them to another coach.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
Come down here.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's also another great thing is that a lot of these college coaches and admissions, that they all work together. And at the end of the day, it's what's the best fit for the rider. I've had some kids that start at one school and the next year they're somewhere else. And that's, that happens too. But it's great to see that they're still involved in the program. And most of the time they say, well, I met them at CPI, but I had already made up my mind that I was going here to, but then I decided maybe I needed to go there. So it does happen.
Yeah. It builds a community, and I really enjoy that aspect of it. And so when my brain split a moment ago, the other place my brain went, follow along, folks, it's Monday, was the idea of people invest the time and they invest the financial resources to come and do these shows. And so this typically is a dad question, not being biased, but the dad say, okay, so what's the return on my investment? What do I get from this? And we just talked about the community. I think that's a huge return, but I'm sure people want more financial information.
You get the community, you get, again, the information. You're basically getting a one-on-one meeting that even if you go and tour the school, you may not necessarily get.
Yes.
Type of thing. You're literally speaking directly to people in charge of making the decisions, and they can kind of give you an idea there. Another thing is scholarships. While most schools, IHSA schools, do not offer, there are a whole bunch, but not all of them don't offer necessarily either athletic or equestrian scholarships. They all offer some sort of scholarship. There is tons of scholarship money out there. You just have to do the work, and schools are literally giving money away. Whether it's a merit scholarship or what have you, if you are truly interested in their school and want to attend, they will come up with a way to make it happen. I have someone who has attended CPI with her program for as long as we've been around. And we've just recently kind of calculated it up, but her athletes over the year have gotten about 1.4, possibly almost 1.5 million dollars in scholarship money. Yep. Because
she actually CPI. Commented, I'll put that up. Here you go. Look, they said it.
There she is. That's Jane DaCosta from Metropolitan Equestrian Team. She has been coming to CPI since the beginning. Kids, and is a huge supporter. She normally brings about 10 to 15 riders every single year. The numbers, just kind of keep growing and all of that. But her kids have, because of CPI, been $1.5 million in scholarship money. And for a lot of those kids, it's changed the conversation from if I go to college to where am I going to college? Type of thing. And so that's kind of how we work. And, that's probably one of our, out of everything, running a successful horse show and all of that, our greatest accomplishment with CPI is, seeing these numbers come back to us, and the fact that, these kids are able to get and continue their education.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, I always tell students, and I love being at CPI because everyone else tells them, it's the good grades that get the big money. And so we are talking to these students as student athletes, and we want them to be successful in the classroom as well as riders. And that's why it's not as important where you finish in your CPI class. If you're 6th out of 6 or 8th out of 8, what is important is that you had a good ride, you tried your hardest, you had your best attitude, and then bring some good grades to the table. You will still be recruited. You will still be eligible for scholarship. There is still something out there for you.
And it's also something to stress, you will be eligible for scholarships at any level too. It's not just the higher level. Again, Metropolitan Equestrian Team is a perfect example. 2 years, I think it was either 2 or 3 years ago, Jane had a student that was literally new to riding and wanted to come to CPI and see what it was about. And she came to CPI and she was going on, she had already committed or had in her head that she was going to West Point. For those of you who don't know, West Point has a phenomenal program. And yes, you do get to go to college for free. However, you do have to give time back and serve your country. But it is a great program. She had an JROTC background. You know, that was her way. And again, they have a phenomenal equestrian program. And so that's where she was going. She came to CPI. She was a walk trot canter rider. She got a full scholarship, full ride paid to Hartwick College as a varsity rider for their walk trot canter program. And she actually got a couple of other offers also. So again, it's at all levels. It's not just the higher up or the open riders or the advanced riders or any of that. And that's also the beauty of the IHSA program as well, is that it is all riders, and FYI, it's inclusive to both women and men. And they all compete together.
They do. Yeah, I had a rider come, I think she's a senior in college this year, so that would have been 4 or 5 years. She came her senior year of high school. Okay, so several years ago. And the family had not been able to afford rated shows, so she had no rated show record. She'd done IEA, and she'd catch ridden everything in her barn. And she came in and she showed in like the novice class at CPI, and she got good draws. She had beautiful rides, and I believe she won her over fences and was second on the flat. So she had great results. And all I remember is the line of coaches. She was a senior. She had already done college applications, and the reason that we came because several of her schools were there. The line of coaches for this child after this ride, because she was brand new to them, the scholarship offers that came in, she did wind up Mount Holyoke, and she 2 times won classes at the nationals for them. And so this program makes connections, and I think these kids are having great outcomes.
And there's some schools that will literally hand out scholarships right then and there. 2 years ago, Lake Erie was handing out scholarships left and right, whether they were larger scholarships, smaller scholarships. I think, some of them were smaller on like the $2,500, $5,000 range. And then there were even larger ones, so some schools also do that. They have the authority to do that. So they're literally handing you money that, at CPI. And it's just, it's amazing to see.
Yeah. Well, and then I think about, so that my successful CPI outcome, she's now going to graduate college, and she's had this great college riding career, and that's been phenomenal. And I remember being at nationals when she was a sophomore, and she won her first class at the nationals level. And I went to give her a hug as she was eating her first lunch of the day, her 10:30 a.m. tuna fish sandwich. So that was a special moment with that family. But, CPI is a 12-year-old program now. And I know you've got some stories, at least probably one really good one, about a student's college career and kind of what steps came after them for CPI. Do we have a real good, like, rags to riches kind of story?
I do have one, and it's actually one of Jane's kids. It's a Metropolitan Equestrian team rider. His name is Matt Drohan. He came to CPI. He actually came, I believe it was 2013, and competed. And then he came back in 2014 as a working student with Jane. He kind of was there alongside the inner workings of it, you know, of the horse show and all of that kind of stuff, and was just kind of following along, you know, with people that were with Jane. Was the hire coach that year in 2014. You know, and just kind of meeting with people and helping out at the same time and all of that. Well, he got a full ride to, I'm not sure if it was a full ride, but he did get scholarship money to Centenary University. And that's where he decided to go. He did 4 years at Centenary. He graduated. He competed at nationals many times, you know, throughout his career. And then he's gone on to work for the likes of Ann Krasinski, Peter Leone. I believe right now he's over in Europe working, you know, and all of that. And to see that and to see kids like that, there's tons of kids. I have people that come up to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I did CPI, you know, and I found my college because of CPI. I decided that's where I was going to go, because of, you know, because of that. I have another Centenary rider. Her name is Megan Frederick. She came to CPI one year. Her trainer just happened to be in town. She rode, they were overdoing WEF or whatever. She kind of wanted to check it out. She ended up finding out about Centenary, making her decision and going there. But it was just kind of like they signed up at the last minute to do it. And it turned out, and she, you know, she's riding, she may have graduated by now, but she, you know, was at Centenary also and found, you know, Centenary because of CPI. So I have a lot of kids. I even have kids from before, you know, some riders have gone on and now they work for the universities or the colleges, and they're coming back to CPI to talk to the kids about, you know, about all of that. So, you know, a lot of our riders, they are out there in the college, you know, out there in the college world, the IHSA. I do make a point to try and go to IHSA nationals every year, you know, for that and to kind of follow up. And it's, you know, it's really great to see.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing is, I think we keep coming back to this, the idea that, because sometimes I'll talk with a student and they'll say, should I go to CPI? Again, not going to tell you how to spend your time or your money, but sometimes they look at the list of schools and they go, well, the schools that I'm thinking of aren't there. Okay, well, if even one school that you're thinking about is there, then go talk to those other schools. You may discover the school that is a perfect fit that you didn't know existed, or you might be able to take what you learn over the course of this very educational weekend with you to the rest of your college search. So I think the experience and the opportunities and the connections are worthwhile in that.
Absolutely. I also get a lot from people when they're like, well, I already know where I want to go to college. I'm not going to ride in college because what I want to do in college, they don't have a program. I want to go to art school. I'm going to art school. And I say, okay, well, where are you going? Are you going to SCAD? Are you going to Pratt? Are you going, you know, and, you know, a lot of kids are like, well, I'm going to SCAD. And I say, well, congratulations. You can also either major or minor in equine studies.
Yep. Yep.
They're right there. They have, you know, one of the top programs, equestrian programs and stuff like that. I just got an email from Catherine at the Pratt Institute in New York. They started a varsity they just had a commitment from a rider, one of her first riders that she met one of the first years she attended CPI, has committed and is going to Pratt in the fall. So, you know, you never know. Again, you can also go to West Point and be on the equestrian team.
Yep. Yep.
You know, so.
Yeah, the diversity of the schools, and yes, the schools that are able to send coaches and admission staff to the CPI events are typically the schools that have a varsity team, an equine major or minor. Many of them are slightly smaller, many of them are medium. You know, you don't necessarily find a big state public university, but you know, you do find we have a service academy, we have art schools, we have liberal arts colleges, we have, you know, really career focused schools, and that diversity. And that's where I say if you're in 8th or 9th grade, get to CPI, because you don't necessarily know what you're looking for, but at least here you can find the range.
You can find the range. And also we always ask people when they, you know, when they email us and they say, oh, well, the schools we're thinking about, they're not on the list. I say, well, what schools are you thinking about? Send us the list. We will reach out. And at the very least, get them to at least send some information, or, you know, or what have you. We're all about always encouraging new schools. And as, you know, as it's gone, when CPI originally started, I think there were 8 colleges that attended. For the weekend. And like I said, now for Florida, we're up to between 45 to 50, with obviously the exception of this last year because of COVID restrictions, but we still had a phenomenal turnout, even with COVID restrictions, for both CPI Florida and New Jersey. You know, so again, it's all about what you make of it.
And I would like to point out, I was unable to make the New Jersey event this past year, but I was in Florida, and it was very COVID safe. The one thing I love about horse shows in general is they've been relatively easy to make COVID safe this year, because we're already on a horse social distancing. We're out in the open air, you know, and you enforce the mask rule, and so everything ran quite smoothly. It was very safe. It was a great event, I thought.
That we had a lot of fun, you know, and again, we kind of made the best of the situations for both, you know, Florida and New Jersey. And I can now say that I have hosted 2 horse shows in the middle of a pandemic, you know, and they all went very well.
Yep. Yeah, and so well that, as you said, numbers are starting to fill, because you've had the sign up information out for both New Jersey and Florida for quite some time. So things are starting to fill. So if people are interested, you know, interested, they need to get to the website. I'm gonna put that back up there while I'm thinking about it. Need to get to the website. Need to reach out. But so future plans, because you've tried a few other locations and they haven't been as successful. New Jersey and Florida have really taken off, but as you're looking at the future of CPI, are we talking additional locations? Are we talking adding disciplines? Because right now it's for the hunt seat riders. So we're doing the hunt seat on the flat and the hunt seat over fences. But if there are other disciplines, dressage or Western riders listening, what are your thoughts and plans?
Well, I would eventually like to add other disciplines. I personally am just now getting the hang of the hunt seat and mastering that. I like to do things well, and you know, I like everybody to be able to come and have a great time. And you know, the hunt seat world is where I come from, so that is something, you know, that I've worked really, really hard on building, and we have added other locations. We've done, again, we have CPI Florida, we have CPI New Jersey. That is growing. We have a beautiful facility in New Jersey that we hosted at the Ridge, which is Nona Garson and George D'Ambrosio's place, and they are great. They're the best partners that we could work with. And most of the time, Nona is the clinician in New Jersey, so you may want to get your application in sooner rather than later. We haven't picked a clinician yet, though, for New Jersey or Florida. We normally wait to announce that a little bit later on, as we try to mesh up people's schedules and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, it's just, I would get in there and get everything, you know, get your applications in.
Yeah. And even if you're thinking about it, I mean, the great thing right now, too, is CPI is small. CPI is you. And so if people do have questions and they reach out, they're going to deal with you specifically. And you're not only the person who's setting up the show, but on show A, yes, you have additional people that are helping you to run it, but ultimately the buck stops with you and the questions are answered by you. So the consistency in the way that things are run and the sign up process is there.
Yes, I tend to know everybody's name when they come to sign up, when they come to register at the horse show, because I do process every single application. I do answer all the questions. I get a lot of, well, we called and spoke to somebody at your office, and I would say, no, that was me. Um, you spoke to me, this is how we, and that's one thing that I love about it also, is I love getting to know the riders and their families too. Like I said, we have kids that come all from 8th grade all the way through 12th grade. And so I love seeing that and kind of seeing them through, and you develop like a personal relationship with a lot of these families. And then some of them, they come back. I have some kids that come to CPI New Jersey that they come and they support the kids from their barn that are coming, and they're now in college and all that. And so it's really great to see, that type of stuff.
Yeah. And that's my one thing. Like, if this gets bigger, if you go to more locations or more disciplines and things, I'm like, but keeping that small feel is kind of going to be the trick, because of the community that you've been able to build by just focusing, like you said, on doing one discipline well and kind of building that up.
Doing the one discipline well and building that up, and again, doing the locations well and building those up. When I started with CPI, it was just one horse show a year, and it was CPI Florida, and then that was kind of it. And the second year that I had CPI, we added CPI California, and that was a great hit, and it was a great location. Who doesn't want to go to LA and see all of that? And it's great for the schools even too, to have, to go out to the West Coast, and that's a whole, different pool of riders and stuff like that we were, pulling from. We had kids at CPI California from Alaska.
Yep.
So, we get all of those, all different, aspects and all of that. And so, we are looking at possibly going back there. We did CPI Texas one year, which was, also great. We're, possibly looking at there, and maybe even just keeping them, just having Florida as our bigger horse show, and then doing some, smaller ones, so that we are able to maintain that integrity and, that kind of personal connection with our riders and, colleges and everything else.
Mm-hmm. Well, and pre-pandemic, one of the other things that you had started to get off the ground, and then COVID shut the whole thing down, was doing the spotlights at the different college campuses. So going and doing, basically, I liked the way that you did it, because it was a campus preview for that specific school. So campus tours, getting the flavor of what a school was, but then you had the CPI component of, let's clinic with this school's horses and coaches, getting to know their team, and then we're gonna have a mini show at the end. So it was like taking CPI to these smaller locations and letting students experience that.
Absolutely. We hosted several at Albion, and it was great. It was basically like a college visitation weekend on steroids, because you were able to ride. We immersed you in the experience of the college riding experience. You were hanging out with the team members. The kids got to go stay a night in the dorm with team members, and all of that kind of stuff. So they really, really got to experience it, and those were great. Again, COVID kind of put a screech halt to all of that, and we're evaluating what things are going to look like in a post-COVID world. We're slowly getting there. But so yes. So we may continue to do those, and maybe only do a select few of those, in addition to adding horse shows, and things like that. We're just kind of, again, I would like to be able to continue and maintain, again, that personal feeling, that you get at CPI also.
Yeah, well, and I think that's important for parents to hear, because so often, I know you work with, and I work with, parents who somehow gave birth to a horse crazy child, and this is the parents' first entry into anything horses. So maybe the kid's been showing a while, maybe the kid hasn't, but transitioning to college with a student who rides, and these parents have all of these unknowns. And so I think that's a vital service that the program provides, is to give a place for answers and names and faces so that parents have resources and people that they can refer to because they get so overwhelmed.
No, 100%. You know, again, the horse crazy. I was the horse crazy kid. My parents have spent more time at a horse show since I have taken over the CPI than they did when I was younger, because I just didn't, you know, that was just kind of my hobby and stuff like that. But they spend a lot of time at CPI.
Yeah, that is worth pointing out. CPI is a family affair for Lindsay, because you will meet your parents if you come to CPI Florida and CPI New Jersey, but
Yes.
they're front and center, and they're making sure that everyone's having a great weekend. And like, that's the best part of my day. Anytime I get to the CPI first thing in the morning, I walk in with my Starbucks cup and my table set up, and there's your parents, and I'm like, yes, it's a good day.
They're there. They have a job. They sell CPI merchandise.
Yes.
And they do it very well. Yes, right there. They do it very well. And that's what they do for the weekend, and they spend the entire weekend at CPI. And I can tell you that they probably never thought, when I started taking, 2 riding lessons a week, that this is what my career would become.
I think many parents, as I recall my mother saying to me as a small child, horses are not a career, and we're going to go find you, you're going to have a job that allows you to afford horses. And in the back of my mind, I don't think that this was what I thought I would be doing, but I was like, she's totally wrong, and I can totally make horses a career.
I have a lot of friends with kids who are just like starting to venture out and experience sports, and they're trying to find their niche and all of that. And I have a friend recently that said, "Oh, I took my daughter for a pony ride and she loved it." And I said, "Congratulations. You're going to have to go get a second job."
Yeah. Here's the list of things you will now be paying for. Welcome to our world.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but that's the great thing about CPI. It's not necessarily, being a professional in the equestrian world is not just necessarily either owning a barn or being a professional rider. There's all these other aspects to it. Again, I no longer ride actively. I own a horse show. So it's about finding your niche also.
How many trainers come up to me, and probably come up to you, over the course of a CPI weekend that have come with their clients, have brought their clients to the show, and they're like, she thinks she wants to run a barn, she's got to find a real job. Like, the trainers are saying to these kids, I love what I do. I want you to go do XYZ. And I don't care if it's horse world adjacent, but you need to go out and do something else.
Well, that's how I ended up with CPI. I was running a barn. And it's a lot. I was running a huge hunter jumper facility in Miami. We had horses going all the time and all of that. And we were also home to the University of Miami equestrian team in Miami, Florida. And so that's ultimately how I became involved with CPI. And I didn't want to run the barn. I didn't want to own the barn, didn't want to run the barn, didn't want to teach, I don't have any of that. And I really, truly found my niche in this industry. And, I'm very lucky to, that again, I'm able to be involved without being a rider.
Yep. Well, and you've positioned it, like we keep going back to, it's not just about the show, and it's not even just about the riding. The new component you added this year that I would be remiss if I didn't bring it up was your partnership with Green is the New Blue. So adding the environmental stewardship component. I mean, there's all these
Absolutely.
little things.
We have a great new partnership with Green is the New Blue. And even for me, learning about it and how we can become, sustainability and all of that at horse shows, even with the simple fact of doing away with plastic water bottles. One single-use plastic water bottles. If you were at CPI Florida, we had boxed water everywhere. That was provided by Green is the New Blue. And just really, really learning about that. And now, they've taken it to the next level and they've stepped up and, we're working on some scholarship programs with them. We're working on highlighting schools that have environmental studies programs as well. So people can really understand what goes into it, because a horse show is not kind to our environment, into our environment. And we need to start, you have to start somewhere.
Yep. Yeah. It just, and again, you didn't even have to grow the show or change the location to it. That's just one component that came into that. And so, there's layers to this horse show. And ultimately that's what I come back to when I'm trying to encapsulate it to explain to people what it is. The short of it is I tell people that it's a recruiting showcase for college-bound equestrians. But that's my one sentence elevator speech to explain what it is. What they're getting is so much more. It's
Absolutely.
The programming, it's the chance for scholarship, it's the networking, it's the horsemanship education. I mean, there's so much.
There's so much. And then on top of not only just the scholarships that the schools give or what have you, we have our own scholarships that we give as well. We have a nonprofit. It's the CPI Scholarship and Educational Fund. And we have all different types of, scholarship programs and things like that. We have an essay contest. We have a horsemanship test, champion of service. I love to see kids that definitely give back to the community, and things like that. And so we recognize all of that, and so we have our own scholarship program as well that you it's one of the benefits of being a rider at CPI is that you're able to participate in all of those programs.
Yep. And there's one award where you win an award at a CPI, but it's free entry into another CPI. So you actually can win your way into one of the next upcoming CPI shows.
We were doing that with the spotlights actually at the schools, because for some that was their introduction to CPI also. So that was great. We were really building, new relationships and really reaching out to students who maybe didn't necessarily know, because the school was working with us and marketing it. And, they have their own list of potential, athletes and things like that. So that was something, that we were looking at. And again, we have our, Fund My Ride program also, which, allows everybody to participate, type of thing. So.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm leaving the website up here because all of the answers to all of the things are on the website.
Everything's on the website.
Yes, it's all on the website. Lindsay keeps it very, very up to date. But also, and you keep the Instagram and the Facebook pages. So if they want to do social media, they can follow you there because you put updates up there. Yes. So we're on Facebook and Instagram, and I believe Twitter, but mainly Facebook and Instagram. The website basically has everything you need. However, if you cannot find something or if you have a question, our email address is also there. You can email us. I like to get back to people within 24 hours. Sometimes it may be a little bit longer depending on if it's closer to a horse show, the actual horse show. But if you have a question, please, please, please reach out to us. I love answering questions. So. Yeah. And that kind of sets people up for the show itself. The purpose of this is to get you answers and to get you information. So start right with the sign up process. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And then when you get to the show, and again, like Lindsay said at the beginning, parents, we're sure you have questions of your own, but we want the students to take the lead. The students interact with the admission people. The students interact with the coaches. And I always love when the parents will send the kids one direction at the college fair, and then they'll go the other because they're like, all right, here's my questions. My kid's over there. She's going to come ask questions, but here's what I want to know. And I respect that.
No, absolutely. And again, it's a learning process, but at the same time, we have to, that's also something that I encourage too, is please, unless you're posting on Instagram or Facebook about what a great time you've had at CPI, to please put down the phones, you know, and the text messaging and all of that, it kind of gets lost. I'm very big on, I like to have conversations with people, and not text conversations. I like to pick up the phone and talk to people. You know, and have, again, that personal connection with everybody. So that's a huge thing, and we really, really, really encourage that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And actually, we will all tell you that Friday night if you come to the educational program, and we will tell you when you get to the show. You know, again, love when you tag CPI and put them in your Insta stories and everything, and say that you're having a great time. Please do. But when you get up to the table, phone away, you know, look people in the eyes. Unfortunately, we're still not shaking hands quite yet, but maybe next year we'll get back to that. You know, bring a resume or a transcript. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. The admission people, you know, like, come prepared. Think of it as a job interview. They're interviewing you, but again, you can interview the schools as well.
So it's funny you mentioned that. We actually do have resumes that we offer, and we've partnered with the Plaid Horse as well. So it's you can also find all this information on our website. It's the Writer Resume. And your writer resume will appear in our event magazine, for that event magazine, but we've taken it to the next level, and we've included them in the Plaid Horse in the September issue, and in the January issue, we have a whole CPI section. And that includes, you know, information about CPI, again, because we're trying to, you know, reach out and, you know, let everybody know about the program and stuff. But we also want to showcase our riders and their, you know, talents and all of that, not just on horses either. We have a lot of, you know, kids that are, I mean, I look at some of these resumes and I you know, I'm like blown away at what they do community service, or even their extracurricular activities besides the horses and everything. It's mind-blowing. At CPI Florida last year, we had a rider. His name was Ian, and he participates. He's from Florida, and he participates in all of these things outside of horses, on top of being like an up-and-coming rider to watch. You know, at USEF horse shows and everything. He's been featured in all of that. But he does these like science programs and all, and it's truly amazing to see.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. From CPI Florida this past year remembers Ian, because he followed your advice. He stopped at every single table, which was amazing. And like had the conversations, asked the questions. But yeah, you looked at his resume and it was just like, you've done what? How old are you?
And he actually wrote a blog post for the Plaid Horse. You can find it on the Plaid Horse about his experience at CPI and what he took away from the weekend. And I think that may also be posted on our website as well. If not, I will get it posted up there. But again, so it's great to see that also from a rider's perspective of what they experienced that weekend. And yes, no, Ian actually, I believe, also wrote a thank you letter to all of the colleges that attended.
Raising the bar. Students take note.
Yeah, no. So again, we have all of these, you know, phenomenal, you know, athletes, and it's great to showcase them.
Yeah. And I mean, so we'll wrap up, because I don't see any other questions coming in. If you have last minute questions, stick them in and I'll get them asked. But to me, that's the number one thing that people should take away. Again, not telling you how to spend your time, not telling you how to spend your money, but if you're looking for one place to get a lot of answers, one place to get a lot of information and to network, you're providing that. You're actually providing it twice, because you're providing it in New Jersey in September and then in Florida in January. And I just think it's such a valuable service. And that's why I keep coming back, not only because, again, it's Florida in January, but
most people, yeah.
you know, it's such a valuable service. So I want to go on the record, on video, saying thank you for all you do. Because I also know how exhausted you are by the end of these weekends. So.
No, and I truly love what I do, and I'm very lucky that I'm able to, give back to a sport that has given so much to me, also, and, I'm truly, truly lucky.
Yeah. Well, you do great work. It's a great weekend that I always look forward to. And yeah, people, if you're on the fence, spots are going fast. So get off the fence real quick.
Yes, definitely.
Real quick. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, are there any pieces of advice that we forgot to give tonight? Any other secrets that you think people might need to take away with them?
I don't think so. Again, the biggest thing is go in there open-minded. Come into CPI open-minded. Again, the number one thing I get is, oh, I already know where I'm going to school, or, oh, I'm going to own a barn and I'm going to be a professional rider. So why do I need to go to college? Yeah. Because those are businesses.
Yeah. Well,
your riding is a business.
Yeah, it's like talk to those kids at the beginning of the weekend and then talk to them at the end, right?
And that's also something, that I've tried to encourage. There are top riders who have also gone to because they thought it was important to go to college and get a degree. In the past, we've been very lucky to have Peter Wild attend, and he went to Tufts. And he rode, on the IHSA team. He won the Cashillon Cup and all that. And he's gone on to win gold in Athens for Team USA. And so he comes and he talks about the importance of it all and, what he got from that. And, riding is, while it's great and everything, it's not, you have to have a backup plan too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and again, they're businesses, so you have to know how to run them.
They're businesses. Yeah. Yeah. And keeping in mind too, I mean, you're not on your first career. I'm not on my first career.
No.
I tell my students I'm ancient, but I'm not 85 yet. This may not be my last career. This may not be your last career. So I love that open-minded idea, because students may have 3 or 4 careers before they reach retirement age. And so they need to keep those options open.
Absolutely. The best thing is to always have options. Never feel like you're backed into a corner or stuck at something. I come from a medical background. I was going to nursing school and, everything else. And I just somehow kept finding myself back at the barn. And, I wasn't happy. Reeling me in, and it'd be like, oh, okay, well, I have like a week vacation coming up, so I'm gonna take the week off and I'm gonna go spend the week in Wellington, and or I get a phone call from somebody who I worked for, Karen Flynn, and she'd be like, hey, Linz, can you help me with this? And I would slowly but surely every single time get sucked back in, and this was really where I was happiest.
Yep. Yeah, don't underestimate the power of being happy in what you do, kids. That also.
Absolutely.
So I will reiterate one more time. We had one last question come in, and we have talked about this previously, so we're going to reiterate one more time. Right now, CPI is in New Jersey and in Florida. And in the past, you have had them in California and you've had them in Texas, and that may be on the docket again in the future, but no firm plans yet. Right?
No firm plans yet. Right now, we are just trying to stick with what we currently have until, we're a little bit more on the other side of the whole COVID situation. It becomes difficult too, because each state has its own rules and regulations that you have to follow, and except for Florida. And that type of stuff. But we're definitely taking the time and kind of evaluating our options. And, if you're in California, if you're in Texas, and you are at a barn and you have horses also, that's also a huge aspect too, is us being able to provide horses where we go.
So, yeah. So if you want to see a program, but you also think you could help with that, reach out to Lindsay.
Absolutely.
Because she's always willing to have that conversation. She is in business. We just said it's a business. So
absolutely. So we're definitely open. My goal is to add, again, more horse shows. It's just right now with everything going on, we're sticking with what we currently have.
Yep. Well, awesome. Well, a million thanks. Like I said, not only for all you do, but for also taking the time to sit down and chat about it and kind of answer questions and go through all this. You're wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Well, and I will remind everyone, so we've plugged the Plaid Horse a little bit. In 2 weeks, so Monday the 24th, 7 p.m. Eastern again, I will be here with Piper Clem, Dr. Piper Clem of the Plaid Horse, because she has her summer educational program, and we're going to talk about all of that.
I was just going to mention that also. That is another phenomenal opportunity to take advantage of. Through Clarkson, she's doing these programs. I have actually thought about taking the classes myself. Just to kind of, you never know what you're going to learn. So again, look into them. If you have any questions or you need any information, I have a lot of it, so I can forward it to you. So you can email, you can email me as well. But yeah, that is a great opportunity.
Yep. I'm excited to talk to her about that. And then in June, I will be talking with another mutual friend of ours, Debbie Bell from St. Andrews University, is going to talk all about how to pick your equine major program. So we're going to get into that. So it's going to be a busy.
She's one of those people, like you mentioned, that if St. Andrews isn't a great fit, she will walk you down to whatever. She knows everybody.
She will literally walk you down there. So yeah, so we've got, I make great connections in CPI. I bring them out to people. So Lindsay has really been fueling all of these talks that I've had. So thank you for that.
And you've had Chris Mitchell in the past too.
Had Chris Mitchell. Yep. And Catherine from Wesleyan down in Georgia.
Wonderful. That's great. Yeah, all CPI. Yeah, all CPI.
All CPI people. So
wonderful.
Yes. All good stuff. Well, thank you, ma'am. I will let everyone go. If you have follow-up questions, put them in the comments. Lindsay and I can get to them there. And hopefully you're running to her website right now to get yourself signed up before spaces go. And I wish everyone a great Monday night, and I will see you all back here in 2 weeks.
Thanks.
Thank you.